I'm Aeon Grey. You tuned in to GFG TV.
West. This your boy Big Ray West. You tuned in to GFG TV. And as of late, man, it seems like only the GOATs come to GFG TV, man. Only the big fish, the legends,
Stop.
Just stop. The mega guys in Iowa, you know what I'm saying?
No. You're the guy. You're the guy in Iowa right now. Stop.
Who do we got here on GFG TV today?
Aeon Grey.
Aeon Grey, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Who are you? What do you do? And
so I'm a music producer, MC, father, record collector, husband, garden weeder, whatever I need to be. That's who I am. So and that's not all true, but not whatever I need to be. But I do about everything. Yeah.
So tell us, how'd you get into music in Iowa?
So growing up, I'm from Eastern Iowa, originated Quad City area, from a small town north of Davenport. Growing up, my mom was always in bands. She played like country western, bluegrass type of music from when I was as little as I can remember. So I was always around it at that point, and as I got older, I would mess with drums or whatever else instrument-wise, and as out of just a pure despisal of what my mom did musically, I was like, what's the furthest thing I can do? So I was like, I'm going to start rapping and just really, twist up the perspective here of what's going on. So me and some of my friends had a couple other kind of musically inclined friends who played other instruments, and we just started, we just started messing with like an old 4-track and just taking drum loops and play guitar, bass, and we'd, rap on it. I mean, it was just...
What's the first rapper hip-hop you think you came across?
The first one that, man... so I'm obviously older. The first rap and stuff that I would have heard would have been like Tone Loc and shit like that, right? That was what was on the radio in Eastern Iowa.
Dope as fuck,
but you weren't hearing anything else, right? Wild Thing, Funky Cole Medina, that was it, right? And then I remember being with a friend of mine, and I think he made a Stolen or something, the Wu-Tang Clan, Nothing to Fuck With single. And that was like...
He said the same shit. Yeah. That's his first hip hop shit.
That was like, that was the real one that was like, it can be something different, because they weren't just the normal hip hop at the time, right? Especially when you think like late 80s, it's all big chains and not flossy like it got, but it was a different perspective. And especially being from Eastern Iowa, there just wasn't, we weren't exposed to anything, right?
What drew you in about Wu-Tang?
I mean, it was just the sound of it, and just, like I said, it was different, how raw it was, unpolished, and, it just had such an identity of its own against kind of the whole culture of everything that was, right? Because you could hear a lot of rappers at the time maybe... had the same similar cadences. They did a lot of similar things, right? There was a way to rap. And then you put Wu-Tang together, and it was 9 guys who all rapped incredibly differently. And not only different from each other, but different from everybody else, right? Aside from maybe a couple of like U-God, who's maybe one of the, he's more traditional, simple, kind of boring. But like the personality that was there was like, this is how I perceive music to be, is it's an identity thing. So it was like, that's what really intrigued me by it was, that. And then from there it was just kind of like a lot of listening. Like I said, I didn't grow up with anyone who listened to rap music outside of like my small circle of people, right? The people who did listen to it were listening to just whatever the coolest song was, radio stuff like that. So we were always more into, the less popular, not that Wu-Tang wasn't popular, but slightly less popular things. And I remember having a Columbia House I don't know if you may be too young for Columbia House.
Magazine with the
It was
CDs
like,
or
yeah,
something?
so it was like you send in something and you pick 10 CDs and they send them to you for free. And you could just do it over and over again, like with fake names and addresses and stuff like that. So like I remember getting like Mobb Deep records, like Too Short records, like basically anything they had in the rap catalog I was getting from them. And that was how I was mainly exposed to things, because I mean my mom wasn't buying me. She wasn't going to the record store and buying me any rap records.
At the time when you was getting those CDs, what year you think that was?
I mean, this would have been like probably 90, right at the start of CDs, because even at the start it was tapes.
Yes, sir.
Like I was getting tapes. So whenever that transition was, I mean, early mid 90s.
Definitely 93, 95.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah. So like that was, an influx of stuff. And yeah.
That was how I got mine, because I was in a little town in western Iowa doing the same shit.
Yeah.
That's how I got. Big Punisher. That's how I got.
Oh, Capital Punishment.
What was the? I think I had gotten Wu-Tang one as well. And these were you did, so you got the first wave. I don't know if you remember the wave thing, that you like ordered so many, and then if you paid like an increment, you could get the second one.
Yeah.
But nobody obviously ever.
Yeah, no one ever paid it.
You just really re-signed back up.
Yeah, well, they were good. They'd send you that one CD a month.
Yeah.
That was like their feature CD, and you would send it back every month. Or you'd have to pay for it. I'd be putting like 5 of the same CD back in the mail with return to sender on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then,
Otherwise they just try to keep billing you for something.
Yeah.
Because you signed up for some loop mail type
Right.
thing that you don't even know about.
Right.
Yeah, that was between that and Best Buy, like there was no other place to even get music. Right?
Yeah, I mean, we had music stores, like in Davenport. The mall had Music Land, Disc Jockey, which were the bigger music stores at that point in time. And you could get stuff there. Obviously, when we got into high school and stuff like that, I mean, we could get stuff, Sam Goody, those stores, when we actually started, like, really buying stuff, had jobs, that would have been, we could find about anything in those stores, or they could order it for you. There's a place in the Quad Cities in Davenport called Co-op Records. And if you knew what you wanted, they could order it for you. And it would take forever back then to get to you, but, it was a possibility. So, I mean, it kind of grew from that, but it wasn't just hip-hop either. I mean, it was me and another friend who was big into Nine Inch Nails, White Zombie. But we all kind of liked all of these similar fringe music pieces at the time, and we all liked each other's music. So it was like we had this kind of sharing of, like, I didn't just listen to hip hop. It was like we all listened to everything. And those were the guys too that I made music with early on. So it was, our perspective on it was pretty different, because we didn't see graffiti where we lived. Like, it wasn't a thing, right? So it was just like, we're taking this in and we're kind of just applying our own aspects to it. And that's how we've always looked at it. So.
Are you able to shout those guys out?
I don't need to.
Okay, cool.
One of them is a dean of students at a very high credentialed university, so I don't need to. Very different life paths, me and them. But no, we still talk all the time, actually. So
he'll know you're talking about him when he sees
yeah. If they watch it, they'll know. They'll be like, he's lying. Shut up, man. But yeah.
So how does that transition into you actually recording and making your own music?
So I went to college, obviously. I went to a small school in Southwest Iowa. And this is, I'll tell you, this is pertinent because this is probably like the biggest source of influence for me. I went to Iowa Wesleyan College in Mount Pleasant. Went there on a football scholarship. My mom forced me. It was not my first choice. She's like, it's going to be real cheap, go. But when I got there, like, the whole football team was dudes from Chicago, Hawaii, Georgia, I mean, everywhere. Seattle. And that was the first, like, where I started to see regional aspects. Because the dude from Chicago would always come back with tapes. The dudes from Atlanta were obviously Outkast at the time, right? Like that was it. So it was like I was getting a broader picture of not only the music but like the cultural elements behind it, because I was living with these, you know, guys in a dorm or whatever. And so that like there it was like we would freestyle in dorm rooms and stuff like that, right? And this is pre Eminem, so at the time like it was kind of like, ah, fucking white dude, shut up, go away. Even though I lived with them, this isn't a thing. And I remember specifically the Chicago dude had taped Eminem's I Just Don't Give a Fuck and Low Down and Shifty off of a radio station there. And when they found out he was white, there was so much disappointment. Because the songs were so good, everybody was playing them in the room, and then it was all of a sudden like he was on MTV, and it was like, oh, this, what? Wow. And it was shut down. But it was like from there, you know, that was kind of like my first like being really around, like I said, a lot of different cultures and a lot of different, I've heard a lot of people talk about this here, like the Midwest is kind of this melting pot of styles and things like that, right? But like that year I spent there was really that way because of all these transplants from other places, right, bringing that in. I left there, I came to Des Moines the next year. I went to Drake for a little bit and didn't really do much. That was when I was like, I want to make music. I met, we had been kind of making music over the summer, putting stuff online back in like the origination of mp3.com. Mm-hmm. And we were connecting with artists here, artists in Cedar Falls at the time. And so I moved here, and from that I connected with a group called Cleo's Apartment. Specifically their DJ, his name was Jeff, he went by Jazz Cop. But he was like the first real like full-on like hip-hop producer that I met. Like he was the first guy who really dug for records, had samples, and was doing all of that. So I hooked up with him and some other guys here locally, and man, that just kind of like, from there it was like I had the equipment because my mom had all this music equipment growing up. So I had microphones and recorders and all that, and I had my first computer, like fucking Cool Edit Pro, right? Mm-hmm. And that was it. It was just like I've skipped so many classes, so many things to stay in my dorm room, and just, I mean, for probably that whole first year of school there, all I did was make music. That's all I did. And I remember my roommate being really frustrated because he was so excited. He's like, yeah, we're going to go to all these parties. And I'm like, no, we're not. No, right? But that was it. And then from there, I actually met Gadima shortly after. Some of the first songs that I recorded with him were in my dorm room at Drake. And man, that was just, this is like 99, 2000. And
talk about how you met Gadima real quick.
So it was actually, I mentioned Cleo's Apartment. So Cleo's Apartment did a show at Java Joe's. This is like really early 2000, I think. Yep. And, at the time, it's like there were local guys doing shows, but they were at clubs, right? It wasn't like a venue. It was like you go to the club and these dudes would get on the mic for a little bit and rap or whatever. And that was obviously, that wasn't the style of music that we were making, so we was never going to get there. Well, Cleo's Apartment booked this show at Java Joe's. I remember, like, they were out handing out flyers all the time, and they said, we'll have an open mic there. So basically, anybody can come and rhyme, and we will just jam and play beats and stuff like that. And that was where Gadima, he went by Guy... he went by Imhotep Gaiden. Oh. He had some long ass name. Right. I don't remember what it was, but it was crazy. But I met him, and then he was with a dude named Crook Felonius, who he doesn't live here anymore. But they came up and they performed, and out of all of the people that were there, it was like, hey, like, I'd love to record with you, right? Yeah. Like. Just the raw talent and kind of the wavelength and the vibe that we were on was similar, right? So it was like, we need to work on some stuff. And then from that point, I mean, we kind of built a relationship. And as we went through like the next 2 years, I mean, we would meet up every day in my apartment over in Drake neighborhood, and he'd come through and we'd record a couple tracks, and that was it. And it was a daily thing for probably almost like 2 years. And you know, so like we kind of joked about me being like a recluse. Like even then I was a recluse. I didn't do anything. Like he'd be like, we're going out, and I'd be like, go out. Like I'm not. Go out. Yeah, like I'm here, and literally all I did was make music. Like it was, you know, I'd go buy records, I'd come back, I'd sample the records, and I'd just construct beats. And he'd come back the next day, and we'd write rhymes. And it was just like, it was probably like the biggest period of growth in terms of like, man, we're like figuring stuff out, and we thought we were great. And we were not. But yeah, I mean, this like predates Aeon Grey, right? Like I had numerous names and pseudonyms and things.
Give us
before.
some of those.
So the first one coming in was Slice of Life, which then I shortened to just Soul because I didn't want to have to say any big words for a name. And then there were a couple other like ones in between. But then I went by No One for a while, like KNOW1. My first record, I would say, was released under that name. Gadima and I had a group called Babel Section. We released like an EP in 2001. You know, I've done stuff with Angle. I don't know if you know Angle.
I got his CDs.
Yeah. So like, I was producing for him under No One a lot. We did Lost Cause together, and I was No One at the time. And it was like shortly after that I changed my name, and he got kind of salty about it. He's like, we released a CD, you don't want to be a part of the group no more? And I was just like, oh, man. I just thought it was kind of a corny name. Like, I just want something different. So, but yeah, like 2000 to probably 2004, I mean, it was just, we were just in the apartment making music, and we would get out periodically and do shows. We'd go to Iowa City, we'd go to Marshalltown, smaller towns around Iowa, but it wasn't, you know, we had DJs at the time and stuff, and I don't know, it was that like pure state where you're making things and it's just fun, and you're doing it fast, and like, you know, you're not worried about anything except just, man, we're just rhyming, and this is good. But yeah, so that's kind of the background. That's where it started. That leads us up to maybe more pseudo-modern times anyway.
So what was the first project you released under Aeon Grey?
So the first project under Aeon Grey would have been Marionette Workbench, which I think is 2004. That was, it was kind of, I had been working on the project previously, switched the name, just kind of like wanted to do something. Hey, I want to start fresh with this. So that would have been the first real, I mean, it was the first one, like I pressed CDs, like had the whole thing. It was like, all right, this is it. And that was with that project was when we started doing, like the Muse had come around, right? And we were doing shows at the Muse once a month in some faction of who we were, House of Bricks. Like we were doing a lot of shows. That was when all the shows kind of started up and things of that nature too. But that was the first project. Followed up then, you know, that one then led into Primate Curriculum, which was probably the biggest, I guess, local Aeon Grey solo record. Like that was, I had a friend who ran a label out of Bakersfield, California, A+9 Records. He was like, I want to go in on this with you and release this record. He fronted a lot of the money for it, so we did, you know, much bigger promo than we had ever before.
Absolutely.
And then I toured with that record, actually, like took it all over the East Coast and back.
That's awesome.
So that one was like the first real, like, okay, now we should probably start actually like pushing and doing something, like it seems like this is going on. I remember the release show of that, like we I think it was like 200 people at the Muse, and that was like,
Unheard of.
it was unheard of, especially for a rap show, and it was just kind of like, we're there, right? And it was the release show, and then it was we're not there anymore. but it was those little things that put us up, and we're like, oh man, I feel this is good, right?
What were the singles from Primate Curriculum?
Oh man, I don't do singles.
Okay.
No, but actually we did there's a vinyl single of the song Average Joe on Primate Curriculum. And that's just because it was the first song that's done, and A+9 wanted to do this sampler single thing with a couple of their artists. And so that came out. Okay. The bigger song of that would have been Grow. Grow was like the anthem, right? It was loud, it was energetic, and it was the fun one. So it made the most sense of like, yeah, people like this, I get it.
So at these times in 2004 and 2006, are all these projects you're putting out, are they on all platforms, I imagine? Or are they physical?
Yeah, so physical, I think they are streaming now.
Okay.
I think they may be two of the only ones that are actually like on Spotify, of like Aeon Grey. There's an instrumental album that came out around the time too, Placebo Solitude, which is just, no rhyming. Yep. It's just production by me. That is actually the first official release from Central Standard Records. So that kind of kicked off that era and the guys I was working with at the time.
Central Standard, that's your company, right?
Yeah, somewhat. So Central Standard started, there's a friend of mine named Joe Williams. He was a part of Bi-Fi Records out of Ames, which Bi-Fi was like an indie pop punk type of label.
For sure.
And he really liked hip hop music. We met through shows. We played a lot of Call of Duty online together. And he was like, hey, I have this interview for this new job. If I get a new job, we're starting a record label. Because he's like going to make so much. He's make, real adult money. And he did. And then it was like, all right, let's start releasing stuff. So it was like, he was kind of always behind the scenes of more of just like, and I still talk to him today. He's just like, I want to support people in releasing music and making, people that I believe in, my friends, I want to help them do their things, right? So that he's always been my partner in Central Standard, but like he's not an artist. Like he does graphics and visuals, but he's not he's not a musician artist on the label. So he's just kind of always been in the back from that standpoint.
So as the timeline kind of blends there a little bit, how does that mix in with meeting of As Fate, DJ Touch Nice, and the co-founding of Maxilla?
So Touch Nice, I've known Touch Nice since probably around 2000. At that time, we would do, because like I said, you couldn't do shows unless you were playing Java Joe's, and it wasn't really like a hip hop spot, right? The Cleveland's Apartment thing worked, but nobody else was really booking shows there. But we were doing house parties at the time. And the house parties were literally set up by some of the local graffiti artists, B-boys, and they would invite DJs, and there would be DJs, Linoleum, and we would rap battle, just freestyle the whole night. And those were probably some of the best shows I've seen in Des Moines, to be honest. All types of dudes would come through, like Meech from Launchpad back in the day. He would come through and freestyle periodically, right? But it was always just like, we'd battle, we'd freestyle, and at the end it was all cool. But that's where I met Touch Nice. He was one of the DJs who would just randomly come in with the crate of records, fucking spin and smile, and that's who he was. So I've known him for a long time. And we would cross paths on and off, just at events, talk about working with each other, but never really. I was working with other DJs in different ways at the time. So him and I kind of always had this connection. With As Fate, I'd been introduced to him through Episode, obviously, and Episode's Madeline Soul label. And he was, it was a conflict of philosophies in terms of the Madeline Soul mindset was, we're going to make 100 songs and we're going to take the 10 best songs and make a record. And my take was, why don't we just make 10 good songs? Why the fuck are we making 90 bad songs, right? And I understood what he was trying to do, but it was moving really slow. And he wanted me to be involved in production and stuff. And it just, I was like, you guys aren't doing shows, you're not doing nothing. Like, we got to go and push and do things. So I kind of like backed away from that, but it obviously built a relationship with As Fate, just in terms of giving him beats. We'd talk a bunch. He'd recorded a few things for Episode at my place. And I finally I just kind of challenged him. I was like, dude, like, whatever's going on over there with Gutter Brothers and the record, let's just do something on our own and let's put it out before that record comes out. Like, it was almost like, it was meant to kind of be, and this is how I functioned at that point. It was meant to kind of be like, dude, fucking come on. Like, you've got all the talent here and you're not doing anything. Look, I can take one dude and we'll make a record in 2 months and we'll put it out, right? And that was our take. And As Fate was like, yeah, let's do that. And I just said, my production, you rhyme. I'm not going to rhyme on it. I don't want to. No, I don't want anybody else to rhyme on it.
Why? How did that come about? What made you feel that?
It was at an era where, like, you started to see, like, every record was like, every song was a feature, right? And I was like, it disrupts the continuity for me. A feature has to add value, right? And not add value just in terms of the name recognition. Like, I don't care about that, right? Does the person fit into the context of what we're making? And I just looked at this as like, one, he'd not really done much. He had notoriety as Brandon J. Atlas or whatever as part of Madeline Soul and the Gutter Brothers, but like, it was always, he was just kind of, in these pockets of things. And I was like, it's the old style Eric B. and Rakim, right? Like Pete Rock, CL Smooth, like, this is what I want to do, and there's no reason for anybody else. Because what are they going to bring to the table that we can't do?
Makes it very pure.
Exactly. And it makes it very fluid. Because it's very much just like, it's our ideas. So it's like, here's beats. You write to beats. And he would come back and write to beats. And like, we would record them. And sometimes we would record stuff and be like, nah, that's not going to happen, right? Like, I've got some silly outtakes from Maxilla stuff.
When you guys are doing Maxilla Blue records, the song, is he basically taking creative control of all the records? Like,
who's that?
As Fate.
No. I mean, it was very much like, I mean, and you have to look at how I would give him beats structured in a way that I wanted the song to go.
Right.
So, and those records were interesting because we were also of the understanding that you're not going to rhyme on everything. Because, there's 5 or 6 instrumental tracks on about every record, right? Which doesn't, normally 20-second little thing, but we're doing like full instrumentals because it was collaborative. And it wasn't just, not every beat needs a rapper. Not every second of every song needs a voice on it, right? So it was very much the idea of just, we will collaborate on this. And he would come with ideas, and I could give him a beat, and we were just in sync of like, hey, this beat, this is the intro, this is where you rhyme. And he would listen to it, and he would write pieces for where I thought vocals should have went. Without me having to be like, nah, you don't rhyme over this, rhyme over this. It all just worked. And, And we got more into thought processes and things like that as we got to second and third records. But that first record, like, everything just worked. It was so fluid. Everything came out. It was, here's the beats. He wrote songs. We recorded the songs. And then we were like, all right, let's, Initially we were like, hey, we'll do all the DJing too. We'll both learn to DJ and we'll fucking DJ too. Because we were like, we can't trust anybody else to bring in. And as we got close to it, it's like, neither of us are learning to DJ anytime soon to where we could do something respectable. I was like, I know Touch Nice. I'd love to just bring him in and have him do scratches. He's super capable. And he is not... His style of DJing is unlike most others, right? A lot of dudes will come in, scratch some, you whack his foot type of shit. Like, he doesn't do that, right? Everything he adds and the way he listens to things, it's all musicality. It's not just I'm scratching phrases for choruses, right? So it was a natural fit in terms of like he came in and he understood what to do. I'm not adding, all these other vocal pieces. I'm just adding layers to the context, to the production, and the value. So that first record all just kind of worked. I mean, it just worked super naturally. And it just, and it all came together really fast. And we were like, I remember Episode calling me and be like, what do you mean you're going to release a record with him? And I'm like, he was upset about it. But that was my purpose. Because the whole thing was like, one, we're going to make a great record. Turned out probably greater than, I would have expected. And two, hopefully it motivates them to release the Gutter Brothers stuff. Gives them the momentum of like, oh, we can just go and do stuff. It didn't. I think that record, I know Brandon As Fate leaked a bunch of the tracks. But man, they had some amazing songs that, what could have been, right, type of thing.
So you got, it looks like there's three volumes of the Maxilla Blue, right?
Yep.
For each album, tell me one thing that you love about it, and then for each one, tell me one thing that, if anything, that you would change about it.
The first record, there's one song on there, I can't remember what it's called. I hate the beat to it.
Yeah.
I hate it. It's fine, it works. The first record felt long to me. It felt like we were thinking in terms of like, oh, here's all the songs, let's release songs, right? Like, I think we had 2 songs that didn't even get finished, right? We started recording them, and we were like, oh, this is going to make it. But I felt like the first record was long. And it probably works, but I felt like it and some of this is as I look at it and we talk about it of like, hey, could we put this on vinyl? And it's like just slightly too long to press the vinyl, right? And it's like, what would we cut? And I have things that there's one track on there that I was like, I hate the beat, I would cut it. Cowboys is what it is.
Okay.
I hate Cowboys. The lyrics are great, the song is great, but if I hear the beat, I'm like,
Yeah.
That is not the best representation of me, right?
Is that a beat that he chose or a beat that you submitted?
It's a beat that I gave him. He chose, he recorded, and some of it is just the continuity of the record. It seems to stand out a little bit to me, but it's really fine, right? Because again, it wasn't just about me, and I can't feel like, and he would agree, like, we're not putting something out here where somebody's showing their ass on it, right? Like, and he's like, and he would say, you're not showing your ass on this beat. It's good. But, as looking at it for myself, it's just not that. The second record, man, I don't know if there's anything on the second record that I would change. The second record was like, I mean, in my mind, the second record is as like perfect as it could be.
There you go.
Like that record, like just that one really came together. The things that we cut made sense to cut, but everything that's there has a place, and it was a huge step from the first record in terms of the quality of the rhymes, the execution of the beats, the scratching, the way everything came together. Was the second record's perfect. The third record, that one we started, and in the middle of making it, I moved to California, which added some complications in terms of like recording and things like that. So it was a different process because those dudes came to San Francisco and we recorded the whole thing. Like he had written everything. We basically recorded the whole thing in like a week. And it was the first time, it was a different experience because the other ones we'd record, we'd maybe sit together, do some mixing or whatever, and then like I would do the end. But this was like we'd record, we'd talk about the mix. And so it was a very different creative process. But I don't know that there's anything that I would change on that. It has a slightly different tone because of, I think, like I said, that second record is so perfect that we were pushing real hard for the third record. In my mind, I have to make it better. And the one thing that I would change from it is we went to Tiny Telephone Studios in San Francisco.
Okay.
And mixed the record on a Neve console with like all types of crazy equipment I'll never be in the room with again. And that version of the record that I mixed there is not what came out. I mixed it, I sent it, and the consensus was it sounds too good. Like, and I don't know if you've ever taken a song from that you've recorded and went to like a true professional. It is mind-blowing. Like, it started with the second record. We took it to get mastered in Omaha. I can't remember the guy's name now, but sitting in the room and hearing him play it, like just play a song and then like he'd listen and then he'd stop and he'd tinker with some things, and hearing the difference that was made in just the little things he was doing was so eye-opening. The third record had that up front because I was in the studio. The sound is so much different in terms of the room is perfect to listen to music in. You pan something and it's like, you can go from negative 100 to 100, right? Left to right. In the studio, you hear every increment, and the audio moves, right? So the space of mixing the record seems bigger and everything kind of finds a home. So there's a version of the record that in my mind, and truly does sound better than what was released, but it sounds too good. And it's not our sound because it's so polished. Which is a weird thing to say. And looking back at it, it totally makes sense. But it's one of those things of it was crazy. And I had Paper Cranes I mixed in the studio as well, and that producer said the same thing. He goes, nah, man, because he made all the beats, and he was like, no, it sounds too good. I was just like, damn it. What are we doing?
What are we doing?
I was like, I understand, but man, but that would be the third record. Is like, there's a mix that to me sounds great, and didn't really make, none of it made the light of day.
What was the original vision behind Maxilla Blue, and how has that vision evolved over the years?
I think the original vision is what it was.
Yeah.
It existed. It ran its course. I wish that, we did 80-35 a few years ago.
Yeah.
Kind of felt like that was going to bring us back together a little bit. And, it just wasn't meant to be for a lot of reasons that are just, personal things. not like necessarily conflicts between us, personal things everybody was dealing with. And it just disrupted the flow of what we were doing, and I think kind of tarnished the momentum of like that show and where it was potentially going.
Talk about the show.
The 8035 show?
Yes,
Worst experience of my life. In terms of Maxilla. Man, it was, like I said, so, I had not spoken. So we released Volume 3, I think, 2011, maybe? It was right before I moved back. And, they were doing shows. I wasn't really a part of the shows at that point. I didn't want to be. I was like, I don't want to be hype man anymore, right? Like, there's no reason for me to be there. You don't need me.
You could play the NPC live.
No, I don't. I hate that. I hate that more than anything. It's so boring to watch, man. What are you doing? Stop it. Like there's dudes who could play it, right? But I rarely see those dudes on stage playing it. So I moved back or whatever. It was a lot of personal things happened in my life in the time that I moved to San Francisco and came back. And it just we never kind of reconnected. And I think we had kind of felt like then it was done. To a point where, there was years where I didn't talk to As Fate. Like, we didn't talk. We didn't have anything to talk about. It wasn't there wasn't like a rift. We just don't communicate, right? And then the DMMC asked him if Maxilla would play the show. He basically said, he contacted me and Touch Nice and said, I don't want to do it unless we all do it. If you guys want to do it and we all going to do it, let's talk about it. And we made a decision like, yeah, let's do this. And not only let's do this, let's make some new songs, right? Let's work on new material. And then we started that process, and it was shortly after, the tragedy with As Fate happened. Which, obviously, like, at that moment, everything after that was like, we have to do the show to honor, right? But at the same time, like, me and Christian are like, Touch Nice are like, we shouldn't do the show. Because this dude, like, he wants to do it. He feels like he needs to do it. But man, like, maybe we shouldn't do it, right? And there was so many weird personal dynamics coming into play that just, like, everything was chaos leading up to it. To the point, man, where, like, day of the show, Touch Nice and I set up, As Fate's not there. We had planned to get together earlier and kind of like be together leading up to the show and stuff. He was like, I don't want to do that. Fine. Like, everything went on. Totally get it. There was definitely some apprehension, like a little bit of, this dude might not show up because of just everything. And if he doesn't, I totally understand. And I was ready to do all the songs. But it was so strenuous. Once we actually started performing and it just went. And then when it was done, it really felt like it was done. Because of everything that happened, all of the kind of stress that everybody was going through, it just felt done. And, so we had started recording some songs. But it just kind of like from that point, like it was, okay, that's it. Like nobody can really, we're not trying to navigate this with everything that happened. But yeah, so that show was so stressful. Just all the personal things. It just wasn't, it was supposed to kind of be this is it, right? Like this is maybe the send off, or at least like we restart and do more. And it just was sadness. Like, dude cried at the show, right? Which is just, and he cried at every practice. Rightfully so.
Absolutely.
So it was just like, but that's how heavy it was, right? And it was months of that. And that made it terrible, right? Because it was like, I'm glad that we were there, because I think it could have been bad had he not had that. But man, it was hard. It is hard. And and the funny thing is my wife was so excited because she wasn't with me on the original run of Maxilla. But she knows like how important those guys are to me. So she was like, "Oh, this is gonna be so great. It's like getting the family back together. There'll be barbecues." And it was not that. It was, counseling, and man, it was just nutty stuff. But yeah, so that's how that went.
So coming out of Maxilla Blue, you have quite the discography, but can you touch on Dust Collectors?
So I'm a producer all the time. I don't write rhymes all the time, but I make beats, listen to music, sample music all the time, collect records. That is more of, I would say, what I do and what like motivates me and moves me. So at any given time, I have hundreds of beats that are just that I've only heard, right? So it got to a point of with Dust Collectors, there's a series of releases which are basically they're not full-fledged instrumentals, because I didn't think of like all of the beats. Like when I made a Placebo Solitude record, it was very much like, here's the sequence, this is the story. With Dust Collectors, it was like, I have these beats that I really like. They're either really old and every MC that I know has heard them and nobody's picked them up, or they're just things that I don't think have a vibe that fit in any record that I'm gonna do. And so I was like, I'm just gonna make these kind of like beat instrumental tape type of things that are not just your typical beat tape where it's like, here's a 20-second loop that plays over and over and over again, right? I wanted it to have some movement because that's just how I produce. But it was really kind of like, it's kind of this means of me trying to get some of the baggage off of me in terms of like getting away from coming back to these beats and being like, oh, I should try to write something, or I should send this to somebody again, and things like that. Because some of those things that are on there are 10, 12 years old at the time they were released. So it was just like that series of stuff for me is a kind of I move things out with it. It originally started, and Dust Collectors itself was meant to be a production duo of myself and Bashir, who now goes by Branch Ricky. That's what it was originally kind of meant to be. When I moved to California, we thought we'd make tons of music together. He didn't make any music while we were there. I made all the music. I moved back. He then started making tons of music again. So it's like we work together a lot. We share a lot of ideas. From a producer standpoint, I mean, he's the only person that I really talk to about production. But we share a lot of the same philosophies, and we learn a lot from each other. So it's like those albums are things that it was like me unloading stuff. The idea has always been that like there's things that him and I make together as well, where like I'll create like a simple thing, send it to him, he builds on it, and we just kind of go back and forth. And we've got other weird plans too, like scoring weird movies that like weird Filipino action movies with little people, James Bond type of things and stuff like that. But like, we like, him and I connect on different ways, in a lot of ways, and so we work together, and that would be our name if we do stuff together for whatever reason.
What can you tell us about Chaos Infinite, and then tell us about your upcoming solo project?
Yeah. So Chaos Infinite was, I would say this would have been my pandemic record. So it's gonna sound crazy. When COVID started and it was like, hey, you can't leave house, I'm like, fuck yes. Right. We're not going anywhere. We're ordering groceries. Not leaving. And I would go downstairs, do the thing, get the kids to sleep. I would go downstairs and I would say, I'm just going to make as many beats as I can, not only with samples, but also with synthesizers and things like that, which is something that, I mean, I would use them as like layers, but I was like, I'm starting from almost nothing and just producing with, instrumentation. And then, but what I find is I hate drums that don't come from samples. That's my personal preference. So I was like, all right, now I have all these weird beats that are textured, but they don't have drums. And I was like, I guess I should rhyme on them. And it was a pandemic experiment of me trying to do different things, because it was like I was finally able to be isolated and not like before that I was traveling a lot for work. I'd be like around people, and it was like, this was like, okay, I'm here and I can just focus on what I'm doing and spend ridiculous amounts of time doing it, and there's nowhere to be. So this is perfect for me. Nice. We should all live like that more, I think. But that's what it is. And it just, it just stems from like, in the reality of everything, the concept of the record is in reality of everything, the only thing that is going to last is the chaos, right? There's no structure. There's really no consistency when you think about the overall time of existence, right? People are like, oh, Trump's crazy. Yeah, he's crazy. But man, like, you think...
So is Genghis Khan.
Exactly, right? And so, and who knows beyond that? I mean, that's...
So we're talking... the Lions of Tsubasa.
Yeah.
So we're like, there's lots of crazy things that have happened.
Right, and we're talking just thousands of years of human history,
this
right?
This is just the smallest micro...
Exactly.
On this planet, in
at this time, yeah. And so it was this idea that just, hey, like, the only thing that's there is chaos. Because all of these things that can potentially happen, there's no way to predict it. There's no way to control it. It just is what it is. And you just accept it, And that's, So that was the idea behind it. It's like, I'm going to do something new. I'm just going to bring in the chaos of COVID and all these other things and just let it go. And
those
see what
are
happens.
the fun ones.
Yeah.
It's just true art at that point.
Yeah.
Because there's zero format behind it.
Yeah, there was none. There's none. Like, no drums. I mean, there's obviously still rhythms in the beats, but it's like, I was just, it's freeing to do that from time to time.
I feel like I'm obligated to ask you about your opinions of Trip Shelton.
Why are you obligated?
I just have to do that.
What did he say to you?
What did he say to you?
Seriously, this is a weird question. So Trip is... He is an incredible songwriter and MC for here, like, especially. But I think, I tell these people, my top 5 are people I know. Period. As Fate is at the top of that, Trip's in the mix. I put Gadima in there. There's a dude, John Brown, who Branch Rickey mostly produces for, who just did a record with the Beat Miners.
Okay.
He's on like Shade 45 or something today, did a freestyle this morning.
That's awesome.
But people I know and have worked with and been able to see personally are some of the best artists, MCs ever. In my mind. Like, I'd put them up against anybody.
Absolutely.
And Trip falls into that category. What I think of Trip is, when I think of him, there's a disappointment in me to not be able to do something with him. Like, it just never worked. I think...
don't have any records together?
Nothing.
Yeah, you do. We just did one.
Well, but I mean, like, no. I mean, from the producer's standpoint.
Right.
Like, that is like, I did a ton of stuff with Gadima. I did a ton of stuff with As Fate, right? I've done stuff with John Brown. I get a watch through Branch Rickey, but like with Trip, like, I never got to do that project of like, hey, like, I want to produce a record for you.
I hear you.
But at the same time, I think like we've tried to make songs together. Like I've sent him beats, he's sent me ideas. It just doesn't work for some reason. And I think it's because he knows what he wants. And he doesn't necessarily need me to do that. And I think I might try to push him further outside of his comfort zone than he would be normally in.
I hear you.
And I don't want to just be like, yeah, we could do a record and I can make beats that sound like Vern's and you can rap on them. Like, I don't want to do that, right? Like, that's not, it's not how I do things. You want Vern's beats, I can work with Vern. Vern's beats are good. Go work with him, right? Like, I don't need to rehash anything. But yeah, no, I mean, does that answer your question? Does it answer his question?
Perfect.
Does it answer his question, he said.
So when people hear Midwest hip hop, what do they often misunderstand about the culture and the talent coming out of places like Iowa?
Man, I don't honestly know. I think the biggest misrepresentation of Midwest hip hop is that people think of it, we've talked about this, people think of it as this melting pot.
Yeah.
And I think that is its biggest problem.
Okay.
Because when you look at, and I've watched, I watched your guys' stuff, so it's like, there's always usually like, why hasn't someone made that out of here?
For sure.
Because they're not true to here. Because they're not true to here. They're true to here in the sense of, well, I'm influenced by all this. Mm-hmm. No, man. What is this? Right? What is Des Moines? Des Moines isn't New York. Des Moines isn't Atlanta. Des Moines isn't Minneapolis. It's not the Bay Area, right? Des Moines is something, and this was the whole purpose of me and Central Standard and trying to curate something. And this is where I have a lot of falling out with people, is that for me, for this place, for the Midwest, for Iowa specifically, someone has to find a sound that is so unique to here and encapsulates everything that's here. That to me is like what it'll be, right? When you talk about the Midwest on a larger scale, I mean, I think like it's more of like an ethos of independence, right? Because we don't have major label representation. Like in terms of there's nobody based here, right? You're not selling millions of records here. It's not gonna happen. You're not selling millions of records anywhere, right? It's small towns interconnected by dirt roads, and it's that to me is what it should be. And if someone was able to truly kind of be like, and man, As Fate does this. And he's not even from here, right? Like he's from Indianapolis. Like he's not from Des Moines, but at this point, we're from Des Moines.
Sure.
But he's from Des Moines. He fucking reps Des Moines. In my mind, if there's anybody, it's him who represents this place the best. Because he is so uninfluenced. And I'm the same way, but like my shit still has a niche, right? Yeah. But he is so uninfluenced by anybody. That to me is what makes greatness. That's what makes style. That's what makes identity. That is the whole purpose of what we're doing. So it's like, if you want to talk about like Midwest hip hop, it is that. Like, and it has to come around to that at some point. But yeah, I don't know. That's a weird answer to your question, I think.
Beautiful.
I appreciate it.
So, we've spoken about your discography. We've spoken about some of the people you worked with, and we've spoken about how you feel about what needs to happen in Iowa. But can you touch on maybe some artists that you're looking to work with?
You don't know anybody.
I really don't, man.
Okay.
I mean, so I've always had this, especially when I moved back from California, and even before this though, I always had this mindset of, I was always trying to find people who had talent, and again, like didn't care, right? There are people who are like, this is what I do, and I wanted to help cultivate kind of a scene of capable individuals. So when I moved back, like I was trying to work with, I can't even remember his name. He moved away. I was trying to work with Marquez a bunch. He, he's businessman now, whatever the hell he's doing. Like,
man got his own liquor.
Yeah, I said his next his next record should be called Brunch with White People.
Oh shit!
I think you gotta laugh out of that one. But for me, like right now, I don't know, man. There's nobody. Like there's nobody locally that I'm like that I'm connected with enough.
Yes, sir.
That I can be like, hey, I want to do and produce a record for you and work with you on a record. And that's the way I work. We've tried to do stuff with beats and stuff like that, and it's hard for me to give away one beat. Like I tried doing stuff with Smooth, right?
Yeah. Oof.
And I was like, man, the way he rhymes, if I can get him on these, like I had a whole idea, and I sent him a bunch of beats, and he recorded songs and put them on YouTube, and I was just like, it was like, all right. I mean, that's what it's like you, right? You are content.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot, right?
Yes, sir.
And for me, like I probably wasn't clear on like, this is what I want to do. But it's like, man, I'm pretty much open to working with dudes if they're open to working with me and how I work.
Absolutely.
Because the way that I want to do things is just different. I don't want to do one-offs. Like, I don't want you to record anywhere except my spot, right? Or at least maybe I'll even come to you, right? Like, I just it's a control thing, I guess, but it's more of like I want to curate a sound.
Yeah, if you're producing the project, you want to actually produce the project.
Exactly. I don't want to just make beats, man. Yeah. And I don't want to just give beats to dudes to put in a record with 10 other dudes, because I know it's not going to sound
I hear you.
the best. It's not the best representation of what I do.
Right.
Because that's not how I produce tracks.
I hear you.
So, man, like, in terms of, like, anybody out there that I'm like, oh, I really want to, not really. And again, it's just, one, I don't know enough people personally to know that this will work. And two, like I really want to see someone who has that mindset of, like, developing style and developing individuality to be like, okay, and how can I add to that, right? Because there's just some people too, like, I can't add to what you're doing. Right. We're different. So, and your path is different. Mine just isn't, it's not that. I'm not trying to be rich and successful, and I don't care about that stuff. Like, I'm good. I'm trying to make good records. And, and this was one of the things with Maxilla, like, everybody's like, did you achieve your goals? Like, yeah, we made 3 great records. That's the goal, right? We made the record. Everything that came after that was just, man, lucky, right? And it's the same thing I do now. Like, I have 4 records that aren't released, right? But they're done. So, I can listen to them.
So, I've asked in the last recent interviews, I've put everybody in this position. Okay, so we're going to do it like a basketball format. You're the head coach, the producer, and you need a starting 5 from Des Moines, Iowa that you put up against Andy.
Oh, man. As Fate Trip, Gadima, John Brown is from Des Moines, Iowa, and me. Fuck all you guys. I ain't in nobody's top 5.
You're subbing the coach in. The coach is
fuck yeah, Bill Russell.
Okay. That's a strong ass list too.
I'm on nobody's top 5. I know that. I see them posting on Facebook. I don't care. I still, man.
What legacy would you like Aeon Grey to leave, not just as a musician, but as a contributor to Iowa's creative culture?
I mean, man, I think it's done. Like, I'm still building on it, right? But like, I have, I've got 20 years of music that's out there. I've produced for so many different people. I think, like, I've, I mean, with As Fate, like, I, pushed him down a slightly different path than where he was, right? I mean, yeah, it's just building, continuing to do what I do. And, one of the things that I say all the time is, and I have a lot of peers that I talk about with this. My music, especially, is not for now. And even the way that I make music, I go out and I'm buying old records, right? I'm digging up things from 50, 60 years ago at this point, and I'm transitioning it into my thoughts and representation of today. I hope in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, people are finding my records, right? And I think like as a benchmark, what I challenge people to do is make something timeless. Make something that in 20 years from now, people won't listen to it and they'll be like, what the fuck are Jordans? Right? Like, what are you talking about? Like, that wasn't cool, or that's not cool. Like, to make something that speaks to the human element and just people, I think is like, that's what I want to represent, right? Yes. I make something that whether you listen to it now, you can go back and listen to stuff that's 10 years old of mine. It doesn't mean it's not relevant, right? Because it's beyond the microcosm of this instance where it's like, oh, I write this rhyme about just right now. Like that's not how I think, right? I don't think in terms of like, I'm gonna capture this one moment and detail everything out. I think in terms of like, it's always all there and it's always all like in my head. So
I know you wanted to cover this one. How do you view AI and new technology as an artist rooted in traditional?
I didn't mean we had to cover it here. So I work in this field as a corporate troll or whatever I am. And you know, I think it is an insanely misunderstood technology. And I actually read something today where somebody said, we don't understand it as much as we think we do, and we understand it more than we actually do. Right. Like those are the two representations of it, right? And I think that that's true because, you know, the idea of, and I see, you know, using it to make music is just weird to me. I don't know why you would do that, but at the same time, I understand because it's the same thing. Like, went through this change of when I started making music, you had to have a 4-track, you had to have tape, you had to have stuff. Now anybody with a computer makes music.
So accessible.
Exactly. So, you know, and now it's like, okay, I have a pop song that I want to hear. Here's the lyrics. Man, I guess you can go to AI and you can hear that song, right? I have a movie that I want to I want to watch, right? And you go to AI and do it. Is it great quality? I mean, no, of course not. But neither is 99% of the content in any media out there, right? So it's just broadening that gap of terms of like what is quality, making it harder to discern. I think it's in terms of like, you know, it's a tool that has uses, doesn't have uses, is super good at some things and super good at not.
Fair.
I can tell you in my job, is it pretty good at coding? Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, do I have to look at it and correct it and make sure that it's right? Yes. Because that's the responsibility of the creator, right?
Sure.
Pictures and stuff like that, I don't get it. Like I don't understand the appeal of it, right?
I always wondered if this conversation was had when the invention of like the guitar happened.
It absolutely was, right? Yeah. It absolutely. When Jimi Hendrix played fucking
this new guitar thing, like,
when the electric, when the electric guitar came out,
that ain't real noise.
Yeah, and distortion came out. Yeah, people were like, what is this racket? When rap music came out, right? What is this? Nobody wants this nonsense. I mean, and that even more representative. Yes, because, hey, we're sampling records. Oh, you're just taking my music and no. I'm doing something with it you never would have done.
Yeah.
I mean, so, it's a weird thing to me. In terms of, I know kind of where you were going with it was like AI is attaching to and pulling in other people's music as references and things like that. So are you.
Yeah, for sure.
So is everybody, right?
Right.
And you're not paying everybody that you buy their CD, but you're not paying them every time you listen or borrow an idea. None of that, right? And I think like it's a weird thing because, and we talk about this at work a lot. It's not intelligence. This idea that it's anywhere near conscious is fucking, you're an idiot. Like it's not anywhere close to that. I can tell you that seeing the back end of it.
Yeah.
It's not how it works. It's a set of rules. It is very good at saying, hey, here's a phrase, a paragraph. It is very good at extracting the content, the context of that, finding sources that are relevant, and then restructuring it in a way that seems like it's human. But it is fucking Google search on steroids. That is what it is. Are we good? I gotta go.
I got one more question.
No, you're good.
You said we're good?
We definitely should wrap. But
Okay,
you could ask a question.
Okay, what is your opinion of rappers rapping over vocals?
Man, why would you do that? That's my opinion of it. And I'm gonna blast him right now. Cause As Faith's on the road right now. Typical Cats. And he messaged me and he's like, hey, you have these beats from old records. Can you give me copies of them? I'm like, yeah. He goes, can you give me copies with the hook? I'm like, why?
He says why.
I was like, why? And he's like, man, it's just, just out of shape. Like, get on a treadmill, motherfucker. Like, I gave them to him. He's got to carry a load. I understand it. It is not something I understand. I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, we do it so it sounds better. It never sounds better. It never sounds better. See videos of it online. I'm like, I can't hear anything now. Been at the venues. I can't hear anything you're doing. And then it gets to the point where they're not doing anything. Yeah. They're just dancing and shit. Like, what are you doing?
Well, you're holding the mic down here and you're still rapping.
Man, we used to clown on dudes at the Muse for that. Dude have the mic like out here screaming and stuff. It's like, what are you doing?
I think the ultimate goal is to be good at it, at performing, and I just don't think that that's going to get either long term. In my opinion, I think if you look at any of the best stage performers in the world, I mean, they're performers. They're not over there busting.
The argument is your favorite rapper today raps over vocals.
No, they don't. You have shitty favorite rappers.
That's that part. That part.
But yeah, I mean, it just, to his point of like, it's the performance, right? And everybody's like, well, they come because they want to hear the songs. Man, if they wanted to just hear the songs, they could just listen to them in their car or at home. Yeah, they come because they want to see you perform them. And they want the experience that could come out of something different happening, right?
I'm not going to skewer a guy trying to get comfortable. I'm not going to. Somebody new, somebody that has talent, and they're just trying to figure out themselves. Maybe they don't. Maybe all the stuff they've made is themselves. They don't know how to extrapolate a beat. They don't know how to have. Yeah. They don't know how to do any of that. I would cut you all the slack in the world and whisper in your ear all the advice that you would need to hear, and not be embarrassing about it, and just give the little the good push to the next one, right? Yeah. But if you're industry or if you're anything worth your cloth, I just say that it's a goal to be entertaining. Yeah. And I think to be entertaining is to perform your own music
connect
to the fullest. To
connect, right? The idea of the performance as well at like our level. I'm not doing thousands of people, right? I'm not on a stage 10 feet above the crowd. No, we're normally on a step that's like 8 inches up, right? And it is connecting, right? It is at any point in time, man, it cuts, we talk, we interact. Like there's things that are happening in that moment that don't exist anywhere else. And you're cheating the people out of who are there. You're cheating them out of that by being like, I'm just up here dancing to this song. Like, do a listening party. Like, I'd be fine with that. I'd be fine with them of being like, hey, you guys show up. I'm going to sit on stage in a fucking lounger and we're going to listen to my record. Do that. I'm cool with that. I just don't understand why, I can't keep up with how I rap. Why not? Did you rap it? I mean, and I have, if you listen to my catalog, I have songs where I punch in every line and they They purposefully overlap. It was written that way. I can still do those live by myself. I've never had a hype man on stage with me. Never had a person even take a fragment of time to try and learn my vocals. And I've done everything by myself. So when people are like, I can't do it, it's like, no, you won't do it. There's a difference.
Talk that shit.
Okay. Oh man, it can be forever. I would say centralstandard.bandcamp.com has majority of my catalog. Otherwise, Spotify has some of the bigger releases. Maxilla's there. Other than that, that's where you look for it. That's where it goes. I'd love to press some vinyl at some point. I'd love to put everything on vinyl. That's part of my longevity plan. But I've got kids. They're expensive.
Yeah, they cost a lot.
Oh my god,
they ain't cheap.
Oh, that's crazy. They're so spoiled, man. So spoiled.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you sitting down with us.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me.
Thank you very much for sitting down with GFG TV.